Greetings everybody, Maniac here with Game Access. I wanted to do a little bit of something special today. I want to do a comic book review for my website. And what comic book do I want to review is actually a free comic book that you can probably pick up right now at your comic book stores since yesterday. The Darkness 2, Confession. Now, this particular book, published by Top Cow, is released along with the free comic book day, you can tell, because it has a 3 comic book day seal on the bottom of it. A lot of books were released and re-released yesterday, and they are available probably at your local comic book stores and retailers. And you can just pick them up, and the guy is just completely free. As long as they have them in stock, they'll be free for you to pick up, even after yesterday ended. It was released. I kind of liked it a lot because this is just a good example of what's going on with the video game medium in general. I've been noticing over probably the last couple of months, a lot of game properties, whereas they used to go to the anime if they wanted to expand further right now, or sometimes in the print section for just the regular paperback book, have been going to the comic book and eventually the graphic novel thing. I think this might have started with Halo, actually, although it has been done before. There have been one-off video game video game comic books in the past. Doom, of course, being the most infamous. But recently I've noticed that a lot of these games are going to comic books. Mirror's Edge had a whole series. Halo had a bunch of comic book series that are now being re-spun into trade paperbacks and stuff like that. Whereas my experience with it, well, let's talk about The Darkness. The Darkness actually started as a comic book property. It became a video game property, and now it's expanding to both. And I think that right now the popularity is actually going quite up. I first became aware of The Darkness back in the summer when the game came out. That was, I believe, summer 2007. And then I started looking at the comic books in general. They were published by Top Cow, which was a smaller derivative of a bigger business. These comic books here also have the Top Cow label on them, but these particular issues are one-off issues. They are not designed for, this is not a continuing series. If you want The Darkness, you can just buy the Darkness trade paperbacks of the new issues, but this is its own contained series. It's designed to tie in specifically with the video game, which has its own continuity. It ends right, this book begins right after The Darkness video game ends, and it picks up just before The Darkness 2 begins. So this is kind of like something interesting, something good. Other things I noticed, actually, I did do a lot of research. If you have copies of The Darkness, there actually are comic book one-offs and comic book from a lot of the other Top Cow books. I actually, based upon that, picked up this book a while ago, the Cyberforce trade paperback. Actually, I picked this up at a comic book convention. The guy actually signed it for me, which was really nice of him. By the way, Linkara, if you're watching this, I know I'm treading on your Kool-Aid right now. Review this book. Review it. I know you hate this guy. I know you hate the artist. The writing is not that bad, actually, in the book. But this art, the art in this book, is, you hate this guy already. You could spend the entire review just bitching on this guy's artwork. Review this book. So, basically, it was designed as kind of like this way to, you know, just kind of tread on DC's and Marvel. It's kind of, that was kind of the whole thing about what was up with Top Cow. You know, some kind of like edgy or alternative type of book. Now, this is very much in that vein. The Darkness was always very much in that vein. The Darkness is a story about basically a mafia brat named Jackie, who basically through some type of family curse on his 21st birthday and just gets this incredible power of the Darkness, which is these giant serpent tentacles that can communicate with him. He can summon darklings from the beyond and everything else. This book, as I want to show you, very much it takes place right after The Darkness 1. Spoilers, Jackie's girlfriend dies. It's in the first game. This story is all about him talking to her grave, him basically confessing, because he never really had stock in God, he never really had stock in anything religious iconography. Even he admits he just never believed in God or any of that stuff, or in confession. But he felt that he had to give confession to her, which I think makes for a very interesting story. It's been done before, of course. Bruce Wayne talks to his parents' graves all the time, both as himself and as Batman. But I kind of liked how this started off. He basically uses this whole vehicle is basically to tell the story of basically the first Darkness game. Possibly for people who are not familiar with it, haven't played it yet. The game is right now out of print, although you can probably find it on Amazon or eBay. And it basically goes through the whole story. I really like how they did this. I really like how they presented this to people. The artwork is really good. I liked it quite a bit, and it worked because they could tell it in snippets, which is good for what a comic book is. Each panel can be a different segment of the game, and based upon his narration and everything else, it worked pretty well, I thought. So it basically ends, and we get a little explanation that he hadn't used the darkness powers in about 2 years. Or in some time, and he was keeping it back, which does follow the continuity of what's going on with the Darkness game. It ends with a triad seeing him because now he is in fact the Mafia head, and him basically taking them out all by himself, showing that, yeah, this guy is now some kind of badass and he doesn't need any superpowers, but he's got them just in case. It ends with an official preview of the game, part of Xbox Magazine. I don't want to go too far into that. There are some previews of some of the other Darkness books, and some of the other Darkness books you can get. Basically, this is one free advertisement for the Darkness. I liked it. I mean, I got to pick it up for free just before I went to go see Thor, as well as a bunch of other books that were mostly reprintings of books that have already been re-released. I really like that 2K and Top Cow decided to do this. Of course, it was a comic book property, it's continuing to be a comic book property, and then they're going to make it a video game again. So I really appreciated it. I'm glad that they did it. It's a great art book. If you can still pick it up, give the comic a look. If you're interested in the Darkness, or maybe you want to play the Darkness too, maybe, pick up the book and give it a read and see how you like the story. It's worth it. And if you can, pick up the game for it's probably like a few bucks right now. It's probably pretty cheap on Amazon right now if you could find a copy. I really like the game. I picked it up when it first came out. Multiplayer is pretty bad. It was just pretty laggy. But other than that, I really liked the gripping story. It was really emotional and things like that. The comic book can only do so much about the story of the first game. But I think that with what they had to go with, I think they did a really good job. Well, that's my first comic review for this site. Maybe I'll do other comics. Don't know. If you want to see the book, just pick it up at your local store free of charge. Until then, until next time, this is Maniac with Game Access. Over and out.